All right, guys. So we have seen in the last week session that how to work explicitly writing your own code. That is going to the literally going to the Visual Basic Editor, opening up a new module, writing your own code instead of a recording. But however, whenever you're writing your a code, also sometimes I'll be very helpless. I don't know how to write a code. Sometimes I fail to write. I don't know whom to approach. Better to always approach recorder. Ask a few questions to a recorder: how to hide a column, how to unhide a column, how to increase the font size. Wherever you're stuck, I'm not particularly saying only this. Wherever you're stuck, just stop everything, open a new workbook, just record it and see how it is recording, copy that code and get back to your project and paste there. That's how you can steal your own code. You're not stealing somebody's code, but rather you are stealing your own recording code and you are trying to club it. We'll see that is also like how to steal our own code so that you can familiarize with that. Okay, so the today topic is working with worksheets. Yes, working with the worksheets because I'll be whenever I open a workbook, I see a beautiful worksheets, like sometimes 10 sheets, sometimes 20 sheets. God knows how many sheets are there because it depends upon the requirement of the business. Okay, sometimes you may end up having 54 sheets because you are dealing with 54 countries globally. You're working, so obviously 54 sheets. So I always suggest to try to save the file as XLSB so that the file, irrespective of the size, it will reduce and it will increase the performance as well. So even when running the macros, I've seen massive difference in terms of macro performance. So that's the only way you can just make your workbooks or worksheets life easy and lightweighted. All right. Just like what you have seen in the last week also, I was just referring about objects, right? So objects, basically, you have seen how important the objects are going to be. Without the objects, I cannot do anything actually, in fact. So Python is an object-oriented programming language. Java is a object-oriented programming language. C is a object-oriented programming language. So why a programming language always talks about objects? Because every objects will have certain properties and methods. Through with help of that, you are trying to enhance your code and you are telling to your computer what you exactly wanted. The way you said last time, like I want to write something onto the Excel, range is an object, dot a value, you have written a property or method, you know better now how to decide it's a property or method. Then you are using its values. Okay, you have used a font, you have used styles. So it's nothing but object oriented programming. Okay, so if I say today I'm not working with object-oriented programming, that means I'm wrong because sheet is also an object, right? So workbook is also an object. Even including you and me is also an object. Your mobile is an object. Your laptop is an object. Your TV is an object. Your car is an object. Take anything in this world with your naked eyes, whatever you see, it is called as an object. So within Microsoft Excel, Excel itself is an object. So based on the object I'm writing, today I want to work with sheets, quite interesting. But if I want to tell sheet, please go to there and copy some information, go to that sheet, do some VLOOKUP, go to that sheet, create a pivot for me. That means I'm giving a lot of instructions to my Excel workbook. For example, let's understand it this way. I have sheet 1, I have sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 5, sheet 6. There are multiple sheets. Okay, today I have only 6 sheets, tomorrow I may have 600 sheets, doesn't matter. The thing is, we need to understand the basic foundation here, how I'm able to quickly move from one sheet to another sheet. Right now I'm in sheet 1, I'm directly interested to go to the sheet 5. I'm able to do this because I know how to go by using the mouse pointer or the shortcut key, control page down, control page up. You are able to easily navigate. That's quite easy, right? But how I'm going to tell my VBA, can you go, being this is the first page, I want to write some documentation maybe, okay, as a project. My entire data is sitting in the last sheet called sheet 6. So from here, you want to go to the sheet 6. From there, you want to paste little portion of that data to sheet 3. From there, you want to go to the sheet 5, where you want to do the pivot. Maybe you're doing a lot of operations between sheets, right? That means here what flavor you need to understand is how easily we can navigate from one sheet to another sheet by writing the code itself. All right. So that's the main topic here, how to work with the worksheets. There is one more thing actually, whenever you talk even corporate world, whoever is working with Excel extensively, including you and me, we always say sometimes we say it is as sheets, right? We call it as sheets. Some people say it's a worksheet. So it doesn't matter how you call it, like worksheets or sheet, doesn't matter how you call it. But when it comes to the coding, there's a slight difference. If you can understand, it's going to be very beautiful actually. Now you'll understand how to call this actually, worksheets or sheets. Some people also say tabs, doesn't matter how you pronounce, as long as we are understanding what it means. So let's say we have 4 sheets here. Okay, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet 5, sheet 6, 6 sheets, sorry. So here I want to insert one more sheet called, uh, uh, maybe you have seen, like it's not only a worksheet all the time, like I want to insert a chart sheet also, okay? This is called as a chart sheet. Chart sheet in the sense, here I cannot do anything other than chart, okay? Other than chart, I'm not doing anything. In fact, I'm not going to write any code for this chart sheet, but I want to understand the chart sheet looks like a sheet only. This sheet 5, it looks like any other sheet, but is there any difference? Let's try to see. Now have sheet 1, sheet 2. Let me remove 2 sheets. It's too high. Okay, let me keep this sheet somewhere else, wherever you want, so that I can really confuse myself to see whether I'm really able to work with that. So I've just created 4 sheets here exactly. 4 sheets, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. And also we have a chart 1 here that as of one of the sheet here. Now I want to see whenever I'm writing any code, can I really influence chart sheet? It's only a sheet or chart sheet also can I influence? Let's try to take a look now. I'm going to the Alt F11, the same the same screen again, and I'm trying to make it as 2 parts always. It's my habit, and if you start this habit, it will be really, really easy for you. The reason is whenever you're writing some code and when you're testing it, it will be very, very convenient for you when you're dividing your screen, entire screen into 2 parts. It's not mandatory, but it's a good practice as a developer. It's not mandatory again. It's a good practice if you start doing it. So here we are talking about our worksheets, all right? Worksheets, or you can say sheets, or you can say tab. All right, doesn't matter. Now I'm writing very first line about my sheets. My first of all, I don't know how many sheets are existing, but physically when I can see here, there are 4 sheets here, including one chart sheet. So when I look at in my project explorer, always I'm interested before I start writing any code, simple, complex, anything. I'm always interested how the sheets are really looking in my project explorer, because this is a tool which will try to tell you what exactly you have in your environment. In this object called Microsoft Excel, what are the different sheets I have? I can quickly look at it. That is chart 3, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, and sheet 5. There are, okay, there is 3 is missing. Okay. So these are the sheet names, and you can see the physical name is sheet 1, and internally the sheet name is sheet 1. Physical name is sheet 2, internal name sheet name also sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. So what I'm trying to say here is whatever the physical name is there, by default that is the name what it is showing right now. But let me try to change, is it really always same? Here I've written Excel something just like that for fun. I've written Excel. When I say enter, you can see here the sheet 1 has changed its name as Excel. Of course you have changed it, but internal name will always be the same, that is sheet 1. So that means as a developer, I can recognize that sheet as a sheet 1, but for as an end user for you, it is an Excel sheet. That's what your name given to the sheet name called Excel. Let me make it as some other name, because Excel, when you say, it's confusing. Okay, now I change to Monty, and Monty is the physical name. The internal name is sheet 1. I'm keep insisting on this: physical name, internal name, physical name, internal name. Physical name is something which only end user can give. Okay, but as a developer, I want to have my own name for that sheet internally so that I can write code for that. Little bit confusing, but this confusion will be resolved in next couple of minutes. Try to concentrate from this how to work with Excel worksheets. All right. So once we have this so basically, what are the main features we'll see? Like, what are the different actions which you take with the worksheet? One thing, you'll try to create a sheet. Second thing is you'll try to rename it. Probably you don't like the sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. You want to give a nice name to it. All right. And third thing, if you think like that is not my important sheet, you will delete it rather. So you will be doing only 3 actions based on that. Like, we will be creating it, you'll be renaming it. Otherwise, if you don't think if it is required for the sheet, you'll just delete it. These are the different actions which you take. Okay, so when we have a multiple worksheet in the Excel workbook, we can how we are going to activate it. Okay, as I said, I keep taking this example. I opened my mobile and I just opened some 50 apps or so. Currently I'm just looking at the Facebook, so that is my current selection, that is my current active application. It doesn't mean that like I'm not working on a WhatsApp. Yeah, yes, I'm working on the WhatsApp, but the thing is, from this active window I need to go to that active window. So that means out of 50, two windows cannot be active, only one window will be active. As an example, if you look at my Excel workbook, though I have a 6 sheets, I'm not able to see all the sheets here, right? I'm not able to see all the sheets data. I'm able to see only what information I have in this particular Monty sheet right now. If I click on this explicitly, then I can see what is there in the sheet too. So that means anything can be active, whether it's a mobile, whether it's an Excel or any other window, it will be always only one, but not multiple. Even if you take the two screens, what I'm sharing right now, I'm able to write here simultaneously. I'm not able to write anything on my window. If I'm able to write here, just in case, if I'm writing something on if I'm writing something on code window, I cannot write anything here. Still I can write, but I need to come out of this window. So I keep repeating this. You always remember that active state, which is active window for you, or active sheet for you, or active cell for you, active range for you. What is active right now? Your current selection is active cell. Your current sheet is sheet 2, but what is your current active cell? That is D5. So that's how you need to keep. There's nothing to remember as such, like wherever you're clicking, that is your active planes. Whichever the window you are trying to click, that is your active window. I'm clicking on the Excel, that is active. When I'm clicking on editor, that is active. That's it, as simple as that. Now let's go to for the very first example to understand how this works. There are, all right, so let me go for the very first example to understand more. So worksheets example. All right, so this is the very first example which I'm trying to take and understand the real behavior of the worksheets, how it really works actually, and what it mean for me. Okay, so if I want to work with the worksheets, first I need to understand the name. Okay, here my name is Monty, that is a sheet name. So assume that you are sitting in a sheet 2, you want to activate, or you want to select, or you want to navigate, or simple language, you want to go there. Why you want to go there? Because you have your data there, so obviously you want to move there. So you'll be shuffling between different sheets based on the requirement. As and when there is a requirement, you'll keep moving. For example, my data is sitting everything in the a sheet called data, so obviously I will be going to that sheet, copying the data, and you'll go to your destination sheet and you'll paste it. That means you are traveling from between to one sheet to another sheet very frequently. Now the question is how to do with the VBA. All right, the very first one I'm going to say here, the very first one which I want to say here, I want to refer the sheet name. Whatever the string I'm writing right now, if you don't remember, it's absolutely fine. The reason is, even if you record, you are going to get the same thing. But I want to understand, if I write manually, I can remember forever, because even tomorrow when I'm recording, I can easily relate to. So let me write in uppercase intentionally. Okay, worksheets. I said, once you open, it is going to ask you one question, index. Index is nothing but, we have 5 sheets. If I ask you what is the index of the fifth sheet, straight away you can say it's a 5. If I ask you what is the index of sheet 2, that is 2. If I ask you what is the index for the sheet 1, it is 1. So index is nothing but the order in which the Excel sheets are placed currently. Okay, we have 5 sheets. That means sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet 5. That means the index also will be same. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is what you call as index. So that means whenever you want to activate your any sheet, whenever you want to move to any other sheet, we can always use the index. But at present, I don't know what it index. Let's take the help of the name of the sheet and we'll try to navigate. My sheet name here is Monty. So I'll simply say, I want to go to Monty sheet. Okay, I'm sitting in a sheet 2. I want to go to the Monty sheet. So once I say dot, okay, we have something called activate. We have something called activate. Once I say enter, if my spelling, my syntax is correct, I'll be getting a camel case, nothing but the proper case. Once I say okay, everything looks fantastic here. So that means when I start running by using F8 key, I should be moving from sheet 2 to Monty sheet. Let me see if it works. Yeah, it's able to work. So in the same way, I want to come to another sheet called sheet 3 probably. Let's move on to the sheet 3 now. Sheet 3. Now when I'm running this, I am going to Monty sheet. I'm going to sheet 3 here. Again, if I run, I'm going to Monty sheet. I'm going to sheet 3. So that means today I learned something how to navigate to from one sheet to another sheet. All right. So that's how you're going to activate it. The way I say, just open active, just try to make that particular application activate, or make it active, or try to open it. That's how we are just using this method, that is activate here. So let me try to see if I can use any other. So can I use multiple? Yes, of course. Let me use chart sheet. Can I able to navigate to chart sheet? Okay, that is one. And I want to use randomly something called sheet 2. Let me just try to have fun with this one. I just learned. I'm curious to see how it works. Okay, sheet 3, subscript out of the range. Why? There is, do we have sheet 3? Okay, so let me stop this. I've done some mistake. Let's see what is that. First one is Monty. I'm going to sheet 3. I'm going to chart 1. Oh, it is not identifying chart 1 sheet. So is that a problem with the worksheet? Let's see it. So I'm just commenting for now because I don't want to run that line. I found some error here. I'm not understanding why. Is that worksheet problem? It's unlike like any other sheet. It's a normal sheet, but if you think that's so, it's wrong because it's a chart sheet, right? So that's why it is giving an error saying that that kind of sheet is not existing. Though I've given the valid name, it is not understanding. It is saying subscript out of the range. So what it's saying is subscript out of the range. So that means that kind of sheet is not existing. So I failed totally by using a worksheet. I'm not able to activate chart 1. Let's try to go in depth here. I'm running here again. Monty is accepting. Sheet 3 is accepting. Sheet 2 is accepting. Again, I have the same problem. I don't know how to resolve this at this moment. When I say chart sheet, it's not identifying, though it is a valid name. Just keep this in mind. We'll come with the next example to see what is the difference between worksheets and sheets. That's what I was referring. Now let me go for the next example. Sub sheets dot example. Just like that for fun, I'm giving the names just appropriate so that you can easily relate. Sheets underscore example. Now, instead of using a worksheet, let me use a sheet. And I want to see the clear differentiation here, how it really works. I said sheets, open parenthesis. I said Monty. We'll talk about the good and bad things here, but at the same time, first, I want to understand all the features available. Activate. Okay, I'm successful here. Let me go for the second one. Maybe sheet 1 or sheet 2, whatever sheets you have, whichever sheet you are interested in to move on. We have sheet 3 here, let's assume. We have chart 1 also. Let's try to place it in middle or anywhere. Please do remember, guys, I'm not putting in sequence, because if I put in sequence, doesn't make any sense, because I have 50 sheets. I cannot write 50 lines here. Whichever sheet you want to go, you will try to activate only that sheet. For example, you want to reach to some destination in Hyderabad. You'll try to take a ticket only for that destination, not for all the destinations. So you'll buy a ticket, you'll try to reach to only that destination. Though we have a lot of places to look into, but we are interested to only one destination. In the same way, though I have a multiple sheets, may or may not be you are interested to navigate to every sheet. Maybe only one or two sheets you want to navigate, or all the sheets. If you want to navigate to all the sheets, doesn't mean that you need to give in a sequence. It doesn't matter. If you see my if you see my sequence is Monty, then I have sheet 2, but here in the code I've written sheet 1. So it doesn't matter here. There is no such sorry. So let me remove this. Let me not put in sequence so that you will have a clear idea here. Now I'm somewhere else. Let me think that I'm sitting in sheet 3. Let's see how this code works. I want to go to Monty. Yes. I want to go to chart one. Oh, fantastic. Sheet works with the chart, but worksheet doesn't work with the chart. That's what my understanding. Sheet 3, sheet 2. Excellent. Now let me go back. Is it my syntax problem or worksheet doesn't have that capability? Let me see again. Monty, yes. Sheet 3, yes. Chart, oh, you failed. All right. So let me go back to sheets and try to get into your sheet now. Monty, yes. Chart 1, yes. Chart 3, sheet 3, sheet 2. So guys, it's a clear demonstration which is trying to tell you what to use, whether worksheet or sheets. I don't mind whichever I want, I can use because I know both the things. Whenever you feel that in your workbook you have a chart type of sheet, chart type of sheet is a special sheet which consists of only charts. Does it mean in a normal sheet I cannot create the charts? Yes, you can create, but this is a special type of a sheet which you can insert by the way you insert a normal Excel sheet. But here I want to insert a chart sheet. Chart sheet is a special sheet which will have only charts, nothing else. But in a normal sheet, you can have raw data, you can have functions, what do you call formulas, you can have graphs, you can have tables, you can have pivot tables, you can have whatever you want in the normal sheet. But in the chart sheet, only it is applicable for the chart, nothing else. So just in case, if your business requirement as per your BAU activity, if you have something called Excel workbook in which you have a chart type of sheet, I never used in my life, and hardly people use it because even if you want to create a chart, you will be creating in a normal sheet, right? So now you can decide which one to use, whether I need to use a worksheets, whether I need to use the sheets. For me, both are okay because nothing harm as long as I don't have a chart sheet, I can go for anything. If I have a chart sheet, then I should be very particular that I should use sheets as an object, not as a worksheet, because I encountered a here problem. It is not allowing me. That means worksheet doesn't have the capability of going to that particular sheet itself. All right. So let me try to use one more method here. That is, instead of activate, I want to use select. Let me see the way in general language you say you select that one or select this one. Okay, given a chance you want to select certain things, instead of activate, now I want to use a method called select. Activate is a method, select is also a method, but I want to understand what is the difference actually. Some people use select extensively, some people use activate extensively. Okay, this is select, this is select. Now, when I run this, I want to see what is the difference. Select, it's working. Select, it's working. Select, it's working. Okay. Let me go for the sheet example. Monty, yes. Chart 1, you are there. Yes. Sheet 3, all right. Sheet 2, you are also there. So what does it mean here? Either you can use activate, either I can use select. Okay. People who are not aware about the in-depth knowledge about using these methods, they can use anything, and even I can use anything, doesn't matter. But if you are so concerned about your system performance, at the same time you want macro to be work faster without killing your system memory, always use activate rather than select. Avoid using select, because whenever it is trying to select any object, or whenever it is trying to select some information in this particular Excel, it will take a lot of memory. That is a technical glitch. Okay, so when you're using a select statement, it will take a lot of memory on your system. When you use activate, it's very light. It will not remember anything in the system memory, so it will work faster than the select statement. So that means we also not just writing the code, but also we are trying to think on those grounds how to improve the performance of your macro. So nothing but you are using select, either activate, doesn't matter at the initial stage, but when you are dealing with a complex project where it runs for hours or something, better to use activate, not select. Select will kill a lot of memory, whereas activate will take very less memory, in fact null memory. All right, so that's how it works. Doing the video. Okay, the question which coming from Arun, what he's asking is, what if you're just referring the names in the coding? What if somebody said, change the sheet name here, instead of Monty, he said as Monty Excel. Okay, he has given altogether a different name. So when I start running the project which I developed in the past 1 month or last 1 year, what happens is when the end user is trying to run, he will get into the error. you'll get into an error saying that the subscript out of the range, because VBA is not able to identify the sheet which you are talking about. Monty, okay, fine, that's a name, but that sheet is not existing. What should I do? It's giving an error. So that means now we should decide ourselves whether this way of writing is good or bad. The reason is, if I explicitly mention hard code, the name of the sheet in the coding, the future, for example, this year being 2020, I've sent 2020 data. Okay. And based on that particular name of the sheet, I've given as my sheet name as 2020, because I was developing this project in the 2020, and my the person who has given this project also said the sheet name will be 2020 data. Okay, all right. So let me create the same, and is it working? Yes, it's working. But in 2021, what this guy has done, he just went to that sheet without knowledge, because he doesn't know how the code is written as an end user. He made as 2021 data. So this entire project, what I've created, designed, and developed for one particular process works very well in the year 2020. But in 2021, what happens? It will get through an error, because it's trying to understand, it's trying to search for a 2020, it's not finding it, because you have changed the name. So that means you should give the instruction to the end user, please do not change the sheet name ever. You can give that instruction. At the same time, we never know what the end user behavior would be. So instead of giving instructions, why don't we change our behavior in terms of writing the code? That means whatever the sheet name might be, you should be able to go to that sheet, because that is the most important sheet which you want to go. For example, let me go for the next topic. All right, so we have seen how to call somebody. If I want to call Devi, I'll just take the name. So she will say, yes, sir. Okay. If I'm calling Rupali, I need to take her name. Out of 100 people or 200 people, when I'm taking names, somebody is responding, because that is the right name. But assume that if you have 10 people in this group, I'm calling somebody who is not in this group. Obviously, of course, it's not an error, but nobody will respond, right? So nobody will respond. So we need to always have the right name to call that person. You should always have the right phone number to call that person. Otherwise, it's invalid, right? So the same goes with the VBA also. It's so politely saying, boss, this is existing, this is not existing. 2020 data, but the year is showing as 2021. So my code fails here. My code fails here. So let me put a comment. This is uh, navigating with names. That's what I'm calling. 2020 is the name of the sheet. Sheet 3 is a sheet name. Sheet 2 is also sheet name. Monty is also sheet name. That's it. This is working with sheets, and this is called as working with worksheets. Okay, that's the difference. Let me close this so that I can have more room to write work. All right, I'm taking the next example. This is a quite interesting feature. I want to see how many like it, how many dislike it. Okay, let's try to go in that way. Now I'm starting with the sub worksheet underscore internal name. That's an example. That's the example which I'm taking. So I've given a proper name here. I hope so. So let's go for the next one. That is, yeah, once I enter here, I want to write working with internal names, or let's go for working with index numbers. So let's go for the next topic, index, so that I'll go for the internal later. Index. So here, now I understood, having understood the problem with this kind of coding, whenever I want to call somebody, I should have the correct name. If the name is changed, my code fails. So what is the other way of around here? So I have a sheet one, chart one, chart two. Let me delete these sheets for now. It's a little confusing. Okay, so I have 4 sheets here. Let me put some more sheets if you want. Let me delete this. Okay. I have multiple sheets here. So whenever I want to go, I know how smartly I can reach there by just writing its name. Now I want to understand, is there any other way? Because this is very harmful, the way I learned, because if the name changes, my code goes for a toss. Now let's try to understand this criteria here. Being this is sitting in the first place, it is called as one. This is sitting in the second place called 2. This is called 3. This is 4. I'm not talking about sheet names, guys, here. I'm talking about the index. The index is the way it is arranged. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, I'm not referring the sheet names here. I'm talking about the order it is placed. Now, what if I say sheet name somewhere here, that means earlier the sheet 9 was sitting somewhere is in the 8th row, but now it is second. It is first, it is second, it is third, it is fourth. Now let me move this here into the first place. Now, if I ask you, what is the index of sheet 7? You'll say straight away 1, though it was last time or in the middle in the previously. So that means how the sheets are arranged, it is called as arranged in the index. The index is given based on the where they are sitting or standing. Clear? So that means this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7. Now it's quite dangerous the way we are written in the first line. Let me see if I can solve with the next style of writing code. So let me use worksheets here. Instead of giving a name, let's try to do a smart work here. 1 dot activate. I'm using 1. What is 1 here? Is there any such sheet name existing here? No, but I'm referring to an index here. Let me type something called 5 maybe. Okay, let me see. Let me use 4. I'm using randomly here so that there should not be any question why you're giving sequence. Let me go for a 2 here. So what exactly my intention here is, I want to talk to my sheet 1. So I'm giving index 1. So let me see practically how the sheets are behaving. If you can understand this, the whole magic is done. So let me put this way so that probably you can see the sheets behavior. All right, so this is my code window. At the top, we have an Excel sheet. Now I'm talking about index. Index in the sense, this is a practical demonstration which will show you how I'm going to index 1. So what is index 1 physically? If I look at my sheets without any VBA knowledge or anything, if you ask me what is the first sheet, I'll say 2021. What is the third sheet? I'll say sheet 7. If you ask me what is the last sheet, I'll say sheet 8. That is what I was trying to write the code here. Sheet 1 went excellent. Sheet 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means I'm going to come to sheet 3 now. Yes, sheet 4. That means I'm going to reach to sheet 2 now. Sheet 3, sheet 2. Very good. So this is what we are referring to index. That means instead of calling with the sheet names, which is very dangerous, I started calling them with the index. Okay. Record. Yeah. So guys, we have seen the very first example taking the names, which is very, very harmful because if the end user is changing the name, your code goes for toss, which is what my understanding. But however, writing the first code also still we can save your life by giving an instructions to the end user. Okay, the first one is still better. Let me argue this way. First one is still better if you give the instructions to the end user. Never try to change the name because I've taken that name in my code. So don't change it. So in that way, still your first way of writing code still works. But we never know if the end user change, then the code goes for the tops. That is a problem with that one. And index. As we all mentioned, writing is so easy and easy to remember. Why can't we use and it's my favorite? So let's see, it's not my favorite and it can never be anyone's favorite. I'll prove the point here now. I said worksheet 1, it's going to worksheet 1, sheet 5, sheet 5. Sheet 3 is going to sheet 3, sheet 2, sheet 2. Assume that my entire raw data is sitting in 2021 data. Okay, here the advantage is I'm not taking the name of the sheet, I'm just referring to the sheet. Even if it's changing this to 2022, what happens is I'm sitting in somewhere this sheet, but still it will work because your intention is to go to the sheet 1, it is working. That means it's going. Irrespective the sheet name is also changed, this code works, but the major problem here is assuming your data is sitting in that this sheet and suddenly some end user, intentional or without intention, is kept somewhere here. Now you're written a code based on your this sheet. That means in the 2020, whatever the data is there, please copy it, filter it, okay, create a pivot out of it, and whatever the data massage you want to do it. Now when I'm running this code, unfortunately what happens is it is trying to look for an index 1. Now index 1 becomes your sheet 12 not your 2020 data. Sheet 5 becomes this, sheet 4 becomes this, sheet 3 becomes this, sheet 2 becomes this. Now my 2020 data is sitting in the second row, third row, let's assume. Now when I'm running this, my intention is to go to 2020, but it will never go because it is not in the first row. It is moved, it's moved, it's moved, it's moved, it's moved. It's a very, very biggest mistake if you are using index number for the sheets. The reason is if the user is changing the order of the sheet physically as an end user perspective, your code goes for a toss. All right. Having seen the pros and cons of these two models, that is calling with the worksheet names, and the second one is calling with the index number, let's try to see, we should have such model where we can really have dynamic in nature. That means whether user is changing the sheet name, my code should not affect. Whether the user is changing the order of the sheets, my code should not affect because my entire data set is there in the sheet called 2020. If the 2020 sheet is moving to last, moving to the first, moving into the middle, or randomly is putting anywhere, still wherever I am, my first objective is to go to 2020 data and do the data massaging. That means now I'm talking about dynamic things. Let's talk about more conceptual information before I write the code here. As I mentioned, we have two things here, two names. The one which we are talking earlier, which I parked, one we have is a physical name. Physical name in the sense 2020 is a physical name which you are given and you can change anytime. That's your wish as an end user. But as a developer, I don't have any control on end user because once I develop this product and give away, you can play around with this file. You can change the sheet name. You can delete the sheet name. If you delete, God only can help. I'm talking about renaming. If he renames, my code will not work. So that's why I don't depend upon end user behavior. I want to change my behavior. Rather, I want to make things dynamic. So that means I don't want to give instructions to the end user. Please do not change the sheet name. Don't change the order of the sheet. If you try to give these instructions, obviously end user will try to see what will happen if I change the order. Let me see. What will happen if I rename sheet? Let me see. He will try to think in those lines. So let him play whatever the play he wants to play. But at the same time, you should be developing the code in dynamic way. So here I'm referring to two things. One is physical name and internal name. Internal names always, whenever you're inserting new row, by default, it will based on the sheet you created. If it is a sheet 10, it will be sheet 10 as a physical name and internal name, as long as you are not changing the physical name. For example, here sheet 9, I'm changing to, I said hello. If you go to this, if you go to sheet 9, the name has been changed to hello. But do you think that the internal name is also changed? No, the internal name is not changed because end user cannot get into this unless the end user is getting into developer mode and getting into this window, then only he can change, but he can never change because as a developer, you can play around with the project explorer, but not the end user. So what happens here is if you want to call these worksheets or forever with a dynamic way, let's see how to work with that. But before that, we need to do certain things which I will show you now, working with internal names. Okay, sub internal underscore names, enter. Okay, so this example going to be very, very, very effective and going to be very favorite. Let's see this 2020. What I want to do is I want to give some internal name I want to give. Okay, right now it is saying sheet 1 still okay, but I want to give a nice name. Let's assume now if you want to give a name, you can just click on that particular sheet and say F4 key. Okay, F4 key. We just had an introduction. We have not talked much about property window, but however, at this moment also, I do not give highlight this what is property window. Only one thing we'll try to learn for this particular situation. That is, when I click on sheet, it is telling me you are in the sheet 1 property window. Property window is nothing but the you want to enhance certain things about that particular object, right? So we have a lot of things here. You want to make it hidden, or you want to hide it. You want to increase the uh, give some name, nice name to it, or you want to change it. Physical name. This is a physical name 2020 we can see, and this is an internal name which is a sheet 1. So let me make this as sheet. You want to say something like this, data sheet, something like that. Okay, you just given for fun. Okay, that is, as a developer you are given, there's no need to ask anybody what should be the name. That as a developer you are given. Okay, that is a data sheet. Now for this also I want to give some nice name, sheet 10. Okay, sheet 10 is, let's say 10. I'm trying to give some name so that I can remember. SST 10 sheet. Now I'll go to the next one. I'll say F4 key again, or you can go to the view window. Okay, there's a property window here directly, F4 key, or you can use your menu as usual. Here I want to give is being a sheet 4, I want to remember easily, so I'm saying 4 underscore sheet, something like that, just like that for fun. Now what happens is I've given 3 sheets here. One is data sheet, one is sheet 4, and 10 sheet. There are 3 sheets here. Let's try to see that example in practically. What happens, what is the advantage, because why I'm going for this model. Okay, so I'm going for I'm not using any worksheet object here, either I'm not using any sheet object here. The interesting fact is whatever the name you have given internally, that can be used. Data, oh, I forgot the name actually. Data underscore sheet. I don't know the spelling. So let me use control space bar to get the IntelliSense. Excellent. I don't know the spelling. I could able to get the help from the VBA data. Once I say dot, I got this activate. That's it. That's a simple, stylishly, very simple way we are writing datasheet dot activate. That means you want to activate a sheet which is a data sheet. Now I want to say 10 underscore sheet dot activate. I want to write something called 4 dot activate. Now let's begin the actual demonstration, because earlier the person was, let me put in the proper way order so that you can practically see and understand how this is really makes the difference, how this makes different from that particular 2 lines of code what you have written. What happened? Just give me a minute. All right, so we have given internal sheet names. So what I mean data sheet is sheet name is 2020 now. This is my data sheet actually. Internal name I've given as data, but here the user has given 2020. Let's assume 2020 data because his main sheet where he's going to upload the data. And I've given 10th sheet. That is when sheet 10 is there where I've given some name. Let me put somewhere else. This is my sum sheet, some sheet. Okay, just example. And there's a fourth sheet somewhere it is hidden. Okay, somewhere it is there here. Let's try to shuffle between these windows now. Data sheet, can you please go to the sheet data sheet? Okay, I'm able to go. Can you please go to the 10th sheet which I've given internal name? Okay, somewhat sheet. Fourth sheet, can you go to the fourth sheet now? Yes, I'm able to go to the fourth sheet. Let's assume, let's try to prove the fact, the first line of code what you have written with the name. Okay, if tomorrow if it is 2021 data he has changed, no matter for me, it doesn't matter actually, because I know what is my name. I still remember my name. I can still go to 2021 data here. It's oh, yeah, so still I can go for 2021 data. Somebody has changed the name of the somewhat sheet to, let's say, Devi here. Okay, they have changed the name to Devi here, and this one somebody has changed to Rupali, and doesn't matter for me now because I know what is my name. 10 sheet somebody has changed to Devi, but still I'm able to go to Devi now. 4 sheet I'm able to still go there. So if you are using the data sheet, now we have seen the advantage. That means even somebody has placed this Rupali at the last, doesn't matter. Somebody has moved the Devi to this sheet, doesn't matter. Okay, somebody has moved to hello sheet somewhere else, doesn't matter. Even if the order is changed, still I'm able to go, still I'm able to go, still I'm able to go. Okay, somebody has renamed it as Excel, still my code should work. So that means I'm somewhere else. Let's assume I'm in sheet 2 or sheet 8. The order is changed now, doesn't matter, my code should still work. That's it, that's it, that's it. My order is changed now. Let's put Rupali at the first place and Excel at the middle somewhere else, sheet 4 somewhere else, doesn't matter. Yeah, so that means the it has both the advantages of the first line of code what you learned calling with the names, second way of learning calling with the index. That means the first one is failing because the name is changed, but here there is an advantage. Even if the name is changed, but still I'm able to work. The second one has an issue. Second model what we learned, that is index has an issue. If somebody is changing the order, then it fails. So this model works in the both of favors. So that means better to use always sheet names, sheet internal names rather than the physical names. All right. As a part of the first working with the sheets, we have seen how to navigate with the name, with the index, with the internal sheet names. However, that's not the only thing what you do. Most of the time, either of the choice you can pick up like first, second, third model. But the next important thing, what you basically do with the sheets, you will create new sheet most of the time, right? Create sheets. You will rename sheets or you delete sheets. So let's start working on these grounds now. You will not do anything else. Either you will create a sheet, you will rename it, either you will delete it. Apart from that, you will not do anything with the sheets, whatever the sheets you have. Let's try to see how to add a sheet here. Adding new sheet. Sub adding new sheet. Enter. All right. So this is my procedure, little procedure, which is going to add a new sheet for myself. So I'm not clubbing all the coding into one. I'm writing separately so that later we can club everything. Now, if I want to add a sheet, the first thing which comes to my mind, add is something, a method which is going to add. Select is a method which is selecting. Activate is a method which is activating. So obviously there should be some method which is going to say add sheet. Okay. So that means I'm adding a sheet which it's a completely new sheet. So obviously it doesn't have any name, right? So initially you are adding a sheet. Let me start adding now. So for that I need to simply use sheets dot add. That's it. Single line of code will make the difference now. Let's see how it is going to add sheet. I said add. Try to check this output here. It's created a new sheet called sheet 4. Let me add again sheet 15, sheet 16, sheet 17. It's keep on adding the sheets because already you consume so many sheets. So it's giving a sheet 18, 17, 16. It's not giving 1, 2, 3 because it's already over. So here I want you to observe very closely here. Whenever I'm adding a sheet, it's adding a sheet before, but not at the end. So let me delete some sheets here so that you can understand what I mean. So I've already created 17 sheets so far. I'm deleting everything. Now I have only sheet 18. So whenever I add a sheet, I accept. I'm always expecting the sheet should be added next to this one. But unfortunately, by default, what happens? Let's try to see that. I'm adding back a sheet again, sheet 19, which is added before but not after. Let's try to see again. 20. So what is the problem I'm facing here is whenever I'm adding a sheet, it is adding before but not after. So the default behavior whenever I'm adding a new sheet, even if you're normally doing also, it will create a sheet before but not the after. But what if I want the adding a sheets in a sequence? We'll see next couple of seconds. But before that, let's try to see the newly added sheet, how to rename it. Okay, how to rename the newly added sheet which you want to rename. So you are just trying to give a newborn sheet a beautiful name. So let's see. I want to add a new sheet. At the same time, I want to name it. So I don't know what is the name of the sheets. So can I use something called active sheet here? Because that is active right now. Whenever you add something, you're going and sitting in that sheet, right? So that is nothing but your active sheet. So let's say active sheet do have something called, yes, I have active sheet dot. Can I say something called name equal to my new sheet, something just like that for fun. So I'm adding immediately and trying to give a nice name to it because I'm not liking the sheet names 20, 30, 40, whatever. So I want to give my own name there. So let's see how it works. I just created a new sheet. Right now I'm sitting in sheet 20. Here again, the important rule we need to understand, whichever the sheet is getting added, that becomes your active sheet. You are sitting on that sheet. I added new sheet, I'm renaming it, nothing like that. All right. So can I add one more sheet and give the same name? It's impossible because you cannot have same workbook names. You cannot have your same sheet names. Yes, of course it is possible if you give something a different name like sheet, my new sheet one. Let's say I'm adding one more sheet, add and my sheet one. So that is how you're going to add. But still, I'm not happy with the way I've written the code. The reason here is it is adding the sheets, but if you see, it is adding before but not after. So let me delete few sheets so that you can see practically within this size. All right. So it's adding a sheet, but not after, but it's adding before. So that's somewhat not, I'm not liking it. I want to make it more professional. Whenever I add a new sheet, I want to add after. So let me add manually without writing code. I don't know how to write a code. So let me see how to add manually sheet. When I'm adding, what is happening? After 18, 24, okay? When I'm adding, it's getting 25. This is happening because you are just clicking after the sheet. If you insert the sheet, what happens? You are inserting or adding, both are same. That this is a new feature. When you click on plus, you'll get a new sheet, right? Okay, I got 24, 26. After that, 25. So that means still it's not happening. So that means you want to add, the ultimate job here is you want to add a sheet after, not before. All right. So I have a sheet 18 here. Let's assume the next sheet should be somewhere 26 because we already deleted some sheets here. Now, if you want to add a sheet and you want to let me just put this into a separate one, giving name to sheet. Okay, sub name sheet. Okay, I'm putting as a separate example. Later we can combine it. Okay, this is adding a giving a new name to that. Now here, what I want to do is I want to arrange the order. I want to arrange the order. Now, what is arranging order? I want to create a new sheet after. That means creating sheets after. So what are the code I'm going to write here? Don't be worried like this is a very big line. How do I remember? Even if you record, you're going to get the same thing. But here I'm writing it explicitly so that tomorrow if I'm recording also, I can easily understand, okay, what is this line mean? That is what our main intention here. So let me see sub before, after, adding sheets. Very big name, doesn't matter. Very big name, doesn't matter. So before or after you want to add, let's see how to add a sheet before that. So I've been using sheets slowly. Let me use worksheets. Will it work? Worksheets dot add. Okay. You whenever you say add, will it add? Yes, it's adding. But again, the problem is it's asking before only, not after. So let me do some modification here. I want to say before 1 hour. How do I remember the parameters again? I'll come back to the old story. I don't know how to write the VLOOKUP. So good part is when I say equal to VLOOKUP, it is asking me few parameters. So there's no need for me to remember the parameters actually. In fact, Excel is helping me. Can you please provide the lookup value? Okay, let me give 10 as a lookup value. What is your table array? Let me say A1 to A10. That is my lookup range. Now, what is your column number index? I want 3. What is your number you want to retrieve, whether it's a true or false? True. Then once I close it, whatever the result you are going to get. So that means I really don't remember VLOOKUP parameters, but I still able to work on it because I know what are the parameters. It's not that I know the parameters. My Excel itself is helping me. What are the parameters you need to fulfill, right? So that means this is how I'm going to learn the VBA part also. The way I used to write the formulas, learning the formulas, the same way I want to learn the way I'm going to write the VBA code also. That means once you give space, it is going to ask you two things here: before, or after, or count. It is asking something. Okay, let's say colon equals to, that's how it's going to be given. Colon equals to, you say before, if you say sheet, let's say sheet 27, 27, because that's a sheet name. Before that, you want to create a sheet. So that means I'm saying sheet dot worksheets dot add before, spelling is wrong, before colon equals to, sorry, I've given here. No, what happened? So let me rewrite again. Before, add, before, then colon equal to worksheets of which sheet you're talking about? 27 sheet. Okay, let me expand this to show you what I'm writing here. Okay, I'm just telling my macro simple fact. Whenever you add a sheet, try to add before that sheet of 27 only. So let me run this. Okay, it's added before. So before is anyway by default. Why I'm writing actually? No, let me not write that. Uh, let me use instead of before, after. There are only two options, before or after. So do I need to learn before? Do I need to write before? There's no need to write because that is a by default nature. So you need to remember after. Okay. So after 27, I want to add a new sheet. So let's see the newly built sheet, which is 29 going to be, I'm sure that will be after 27, but not before. So let's see. Okay, after 27, I got a sheet 29. If I run this again, I'll get after 27 only, but not after 29, 27 only. So whenever it is adding before only, not after, after that particular sheet. So that is after. So that's how you're going to write the code, that is before or after which sheet you want to write the specially code. All right, resuming the recording, just mute yourself. Sub delete sheet. Okay, now you want to delete some specific sheet. How you're going to delete it? Let's say sheets, open parenthesis, give the index or name, it's your wish, sheet 38 dot delete. What will happen if I try to use a method called delete? What will happen if I use a method called add? What will happen when I use a dot a name? So you're trying to understand slowly the properties and methods here. Sheet will have a properties called add, which is adding a new sheet, dot name, nothing but giving a name to your sheet, beautiful name, then dot delete, nothing but it's trying to delete. These are the only functions which you do with the Excel in the real world. So let me see if it really deletes. It's deleted. Now let me run again, and what will happen? Subscript out of the range. Guys, this error is very easy, frequent error which you are going to come across, because it is trying to find a sheet name called 38 which is not existing in this workbook. Obviously you are going to get an error. Okay, this is called handling the errors, which you are going to learn in the upcoming sessions, but as of now I'm getting an error, so it's an error. So let me change the name of the sheet here. Instead of 38, I want to delete 28. Okay, this will close the workbook without saving. Some macros on the modules are lost due want to sheet anyway. The reason is you can easily guess the workbook should at least have one sheet in the workbook, right? In the workbook, at least it's mandatory to have at least one sheet. So you cannot delete all, you can delete all the sheets, but not, you should have mandatory one sheet. So here, when I'm deleting 28 again, it's not telling me anything because it can delete. But if I'm trying to delete 39, okay, 39, it should delete, but it's not deleting. The reason is at least one sheet should be mandatory in the workbook. We cannot delete all the sheets. You'll get an error. All right. All right. So having worked with the worksheets, the way you are trying to call the worksheet with the index, with a name or with a internal name, that is one way. Now we want to work with, now you want to work with, now you want to work with workbooks. The same way you want to work with the workbooks. Now within Excel application, we are able to navigate with a one sheet to another sheet. In the same way, sometimes, most of the times actually, you want to go to other workbook and do something, like you want to go to one folder and to pick up some file. From there you want to get the data, and you want to go to another folder and you want to pick up another file. Nothing but you, what I'm trying to say is how to navigate between one workbook to another workbook. Okay, if you know this concept, you can play around with all the workbooks which you have in your sheet drive or your desktop or your local drive, whatever. So let's see how to work with the workbook now. The very first thing, if I want to call uh, a workbook, how I'm going to call. Okay, workbook itself is an object, as we all know. So so far I was using workbooks example name. Okay, with the name I'm going to call, let me just reduce this size so that we can have a more room to work on. Hiding this. Okay, so first of all, ask a simple question to yourself, like you want to activate one workbook or you want to call one workbook. If you want to activate the workbook, what does it mean? That means you should know the name of the person. You need to have the contact number or whatever, the you need to have the valid one. The way I'm calling the sheet name, I need to know the sheet name. In the same way here, I need to know the proper workbook name. So let's say workbooks. Initially, when I was working with the sheets, I used the worksheets. Now I need to use workbooks. Let's see, workbooks, open parentheses, and say what is your file name? Input. The file name is input dot xlsb dot activate. So that means whenever I run this file, the way you are just work with the worksheet, I'm working in the same. The only object I've changed here, the name workbook object, and here I use the name of the file here. It's not a sheet name now anymore. It is a workbook, right? So when I run this now, as I'm looking in the workbook worksheets underscore message, that is my actual workbook. This is my master workbook, but I'm trying to call another workbook called input xlsb. Let me see. Okay. Now, if you see, it is already called, but we are not able to see here because let me keep this one here. Yeah, let me put this way. Okay, right now your workbook is active, not this one. If I want to go from this to this, let's see how it works. Okay, now input is activated, but I'm not able to go to my previous workbook. How do I go to the previous workbook? Let me see what is the name of the input workbook. For that, I can simply say F12, which I will give the name here, Control X. Now I'm canceling it. Now, instead of this name, I would like to give workbooks, open parenthesis, paste your file name, .xlsb, .activate. Okay, simple two lines. The same line which I just copied and pasted, but the thing is the file name I've changed. Now let me see how to shuffle between two workbooks whenever you require. Now I'm in input, now I'm in the active workbook. Now you can see here actually, not this way. Okay, whichever is showing a darker green color, that means active. Now I am in the input workbook. Yes, I'm in the active workbook. So I'm able to shuffle between from one workbook to another workbook. That means I'm already off done working with the workbooks now, right? So the problem here is being the workbook is opened on my desktop. Here, from here, we need to understand like a developer. Now you need to understand like a developer what kind of problems I can really face in the live environment, because I'm not understanding the workbook is open, so it is activating. What if this workbook is not open on my desktop? Okay, it is not there. Now it is only one file. I have that input file on my desktop, not on my workbook. So when I try to run this, am I going to get any error? So let's see. When I run this, oh, it's not understanding. The problem is the input workbook is not opened at this moment. If it is open, you can shuffle between the one workbook to another workbook. Even in a normal case scenario, if I want to go from this workbook to another workbook, I'll be using Alt Tab, right? If I want to go from Excel to Zoom, I'm able to go. If I want to go to an Excel workbook, I can go. If I want to go to the editor, I can go. But if I want to go to that input workbook, I need to physically open that workbook and keep it ready. But as a developer, or my project should be in a such a way it should open that file automatically, but the file is not getting opened. The problem is what could be the thing is missing here, the path of the workbook, right? So let me go to my desktop, and how do I copy the workbook path? Let me go to the properties and go to this. Oh, very confusing actually. I know the file name here. If you go to the security, I have the file here. I can copy. But why you are doing so many things? Let's do one more way here. Just right click on this, use the shift key. Okay, use the shift key. When you're holding shift key, right click, you can have the complete file name just as copy as path. When you copy this, I want to show you in a notepad so that you can see what is the difference. You're getting C uses Monty Excel is your system name, your desktop, your file name is this, and your extension is this. This is how you can capture the entire path if you know this shortcut key, that is shift right click, you'll get this option called copy as a path. If you just normally right click, you'll not see that option at all here. But when you click shift and right click, you'll see copy as path. So that means whenever you're using copy as a path, you'll get the file name, including its extension, including its entire path. That's the beauty here. So let me go back to my path. Now, what I want to do is, this is something working and not working. Working because if the file is open, I'm able to work. But if the file is not open, I need to have its entire path. So let me see, serve working with path. So enter. Now workbook, work, workbooks dot op, and give the entire path here, dot activate. Now the problem here is, because I just learned something called workbooks dot give the name and activate. The same way I'm trying to activate. Let's see if it works. And if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, fine. I want to understand what could be the reason why it's not working. Okay, I've given double quotes. Okay, yeah. So just like a name here, instead of a name, I've given the complete path. And you have seen that the file is not open on my desktop anymore. So when I try to run this, I'm giving an error, because the Excel is trying to understand, your VBA editor is trying to understand rather, you said you want to activate a workbook, but I don't see that kind of a name for the file. It is trying to understand, is this C colon users Monty Excel desktop input dot is the name of the workbook? That's how it is trying to understand. So never try to open the workbook this way. There is an option. So let me close this, comment it. Okay. Here, what you can use is, the simple question here you need to ask yourself, what do you want to do actually? You want to open a workbook. So why don't you use the way you are adding a workbook, adding a worksheet, renaming, just use dot open. Okay, I got this. But what do you want to open? Okay, have the path here, not to worry. So that means you are saying, I want to open a workbook and here is a path. So let me try to see if it works. Okay, beautiful. It's opening the workbook now for you in this editor. You can see input file is open. Now close this again. Let's try to do it again and again to see what is the difference. If I'm running this one, I'm getting error, but when I'm running this one, I'm not getting any error. The reason is, this particular model will work only when the file is already opened on your system. It can shuffle between that window and this window. But this one, even if the workbook is not available, it will try to open and move between one workbook to another workbook. That means, let me try it again. Just try to see if I can able to open the workbook. Open. Excellent. I opened. Generally what you do, you'll do some operation there and you'll try to immediately close it, right? So let's try to close also, because I know open, I should also know how to close it. If I don't close it, what happens? You'll see a lot of Excel files are open and it's not getting closed. If you're trying to open some hundreds of files, all the files will be shown on your desktop and it will kill a lot of memory. So whenever some job is completed from your input file, always try to close immediately through the coding itself. So when you open a new workbook or any input file workbook, that is going to be your active workbook, right? So let me say, if I can write the code something like this, active workbook, which you are just learning now. I'll try to explain more, but now let's try to see active workbook dot close. Simple method which I'm using, same in simple English words, add, which is adding, open, which is opening, dot close, closing. Let me see if it really works. Open, perfect, it's open. Now this is my active workbook, not my master file. Close it, excellent. Open it, open, closed it. It's open and immediately closed also. So that's why I'm not running this macro from here or through the button. If I run it, you'll not even see when it is open and when it is closed. Now I can see input file at the top. Input is open. When I say F8, it's closed. Excellent. So workbook.open will open, workbook.close will close a file. Don't you can't we just imagine, if I say active workbook.save, it will also save the file, right? So we'll see that example a little later, but before that, there are a few things to be understood here. Workbook.open is opening, active workbook.close is closing, right? So it is something which you are giving the path. Here you must be having a lot of questions. Okay, you've given the path, so it's opening. What if I don't know the path? The path is tend to change. It could be your desktop. If I just give away this file to you, whenever you're running, you'll always get an error, because your desktop and my desktop is not same. My desktop name is Monty Excel, my system name is Monty Excel, file name can be same, doesn't matter, but the user here is Monty Excel, in your system something else. So if you want to see this example, you need to change the path. So this is not the way what we are looking for. We want to automate things, we want to be a developer, you want to be an automation expert, you want things to be done automatically, not by physically going to the code and changing. Never expect you develop some project and you are again going there and editing some code. Until unless if it's a new change, it's fine, but existing code changing means that is, it's saying that you are not a good developer. So that means here I failed here, though it's working, of course, not a matter, because I'm taking baby steps. So I just would like to write this way. We'll see how to write, make it dynamic also. For that matter, you need to learn few more things. Now I want to do something called add a new workbook. Let's see, adding a new workbook altogether. So that means I'm saying sub open sorry, adding workbook. So I don't think so I need to explain more about this, because it's simply workbooks dot add. Wow, excellent. Simple question I'm asking my VBA. Can you please add a new workbook? Let me run. If it works, it's opened a brand new workbook. You can see the book name is book 3. Okay, you open the workbook, but you want to write something there. You want to write something there and you want to save it immediately. How to save it, how to write it. We already learned something called range, right? So let me say range A1 dot. That's what we learned in the previous one. I'm just trying to, whatever the things I've learned in the last week, I'm just trying to combine with the existing one. Dot value equal to, write any stuff like you like. I'm writing I am new workbook. I've just written like that. Now I'm closing this workbook for so and so reasons, because I want to add new workbook and I want to write something there. I just opened. Let me see if I can write. Excellent. I'm able to write it here. I'm a new workbook. That means whenever you open, close actions, whatever you're doing, based on the previous week experience, now I'm able to, in today's experience, I just added a new workbook. By taking the previous experience, I just added some value also there. Okay, you can put colors, whatever the input file you're opening, you can do all those data massages. You want to add a column, you want to delete a column, you want to format something, you want to create a beautiful report. Once everything is done, you can close it also. So let's try to see what will happen if I say workbook dot save. Okay, so it's not giving me really a save method, because I was expecting, as I was is still under the impression, it's like it's just plain English. Till here, that's what my confidence was. But here it's saying save. The save is not really helping me, because it's not save now. It is save as, because you've done some editing in your Excel workbook. So obviously, you should not be having this save as. Serious also it's failing here. So again, I have a question here. When I'm able to add some workbook with the workbook object, when I'm able to open a workbook with a workbook option, why can't I can save it? Probably that is an active workbook. So I need to use active workbook. Let's see, active workbook dot save as or save. It is going to simply save it, but not going to save with a name. Let's see if it really works in that way. So workbook doesn't have two methods called what happened? Okay, save or save as, but active workbook has, because whenever you add a new workbook, that is your active workbook, right? So let me see practically. I added a new workbook here. I've written something there. I'm saving the workbook here. The workbook is saved, but where? The question is, the workbook is already saved on the desktop without my knowledge. So that means it is not asking even where should I save. Okay, it's not even asking where should I save. By default, it will save on your desktop only. You can see there is a book one which is saved. At the same time, I want to close it. Active work book dot close. Slowly, you are trying to ask yourself a question: what you want in automation, and you are trying to develop the way you are learning simple codes. Let me delete this first. Okay, so I'm adding a new workbook now. This is my requirement. Every time I want to add a new workbook, I want to write something there, I want to save the workbook, then I want to close it. So let me see if book 6 is really having that information now. What I've written, I'm a new workbook. So I should be having that I'm a new workbook in the workbook 6. But something wrong here still. The problem is it is not saving where I want. It is not saving what the name I'm interested in, because it's not giving the complete information, right? So that means it's not giving me that ability of changing the name of the workbook. It is not giving me the ability of changing into a particular location. At this moment, let's park that. But however, you would able to understand how to add a workbook, how to add a value there, how to save it and close it. All right, so whatever the actions we have done so far, that can be completely recorded. But having recorded, it's fun. You can see the same results, but I fail in understanding the code. But now I will not fail because I know how to write manually as well. So when I'm trying to customize the code, when I'm trying to read the code which is generated by system, I can easily understand, easily read it, easily edit it, because now I have that capability of doing all this. So first I want to create the worksheet. I want to rename it. I want to delete it. Okay, these three things which I want to do with the worksheet. With the workbook, I want to create new workbook. Then you want to rename it. Then you want to not delete it. Actually, we are not trying to delete, but you want to save it. Okay, let's try to do all this operation with a simple recorder. And I'm really excited to see how the code is written, because I've been writing manually. It was so simple and stylish, but how the recorder is going to write, because that's what I have the impression. Recorder will always record lot of things, and the actual part will be 1 or 2 lines, but it will record a lot of things. So let's try to understand now. I'll go to the developer tab. I'll simply record a macro, and I'll try to give a nice name to it, saying that uh, worksheet worksheet record. Let me see, nothing wrong because we are recording worksheet record. So once I say okay, here I'm clicking on a simple sheet, then I'm renaming it. What is the rename you want to do? New sheet, let's say new sheet. That's it. You're given the sheet name. Then you are deleting it. That's it, deleted, and the stop the macro. Now, the problem is when you recorded it, that time a new sheet is created with a sheet name called something 30, 40 or something. Now let's see how the code is written. Just to create a new sheet and rename what the stuff it has written, I'm excited. Now, when you run this code, what will happen? Let's see. What are the challenges you're going to face, and how quickly you can edit this code also we'll see. Because this is not a perfect code, I believe. Let me close this. Okay, when I just blindly let me run this as good as whatever I record and run it. Let me run it. F8, it is selecting some I16 cell somewhere. Okay, let it select, no problem. Actually, it doesn't require this line, right? So here it is adding a sheet after the active sheet. You can also say active sheet, or you can say the sheet name. Okay, I learned something new here, that is active sheet. Now here it is trying to say sheet 40. Is it existing actually? No. So that means your recorded code is failed. Why? Because when you're recording, you might have recorded creating a sheet called 40, which is not existing now. So what you can do here, this sheet name, remove it. This is what I started editing my code now, because this sheet 40 is not existing, but it is trying to find that sheet. So I can say now simply active sheet dot name. Okay, now let me run again. When I'm running this, added a new sheet, renamed it, I selected that sheet and deleted that sheet also. That's it. Guess what's your thoughts? Whenever you're recording, it will try to give all the parameters like this. Don't worry about this, but the way I just told you, workbook.open, just give the path, that's enough. But it is trying to give all the properties what it has. It may or may not important depending upon your requirement. Save as, this file name is not required. It is telling this parameter is a file name. Even if you don't have this, also still works. It's trying to give all the options available for this active workbook.save. What are the parameters we have? Just remind yourself, we look up what are the parameters: lookup value, table array, column index, true or false. So 4 parameters you need to satisfy in order to make your VLOOKUP successfully running. In the same way, active workbook.save will have 4 parameters here. Do you want to save as which file name? Okay, this file name. What is the file format you want? XLSB, XLSX, XLSM. That is what it is saying. Okay, you want to have a backup for this. If you say true here, that means you are explicitly saying that you want to create a backup here. So even if you don't have all these options also, still the code works. But these are the additional features what we have in order to make your saving procedure more effective. That means you want to create a backup for this as well. You want to have a specific format called XLSB. This is giving more additional information. Whenever you see multiple parameters, recap yourself that so-called VLOOKUP, you'll understand. I think I'm taking very slow the topic because there are 2 more topics to be covered. I don't think so I can cover. Yeah. Any questions, guys? We just covered only 2 things, worksheet and workbook. Anybody awake? I'm not getting any response here.
Yes, Shravan.
I think 2 people already left because the movie is not good. They left in the
No,
interval.
no, actually, sometimes like I'm getting network issues, like so I rejoined again.
Okay, okay, fine. So are we clear?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Oh, so if you're okay with that, we can continue for next 30 minutes or 1 hour, 2 hours. I love teaching, so I don't mind. So I also want to know how you guys time, because if you're okay, we can continue, or else we can stop here. Then we can start in the next week again. So please do remember all the tips and tricks, whatever I'm telling, plays very, very, very vital role when you want to become automation expert. I'm doing intentionally mistakes and trying to figure out what is the solution. So you will also face the same issues because you're also working on the same example. So when you're working on a different example on your own, which I never told you, there you will have that grip of handling that situation. That's what I mean.
Nice.
So at this moment, don't think about Shravan, if you have 10 workbooks you want to open at once. I can't do that because I need to know something called loops. Loops is a topic, nothing but you want to repeat certain task for a 10 times, 20 times, 10,000 times. That is loops. Conditions is nothing but